Good evening and welcome to tonight's broadcast. We got some beef, some real beef. I'm thinking about that direct-to-video Nicolas Cage film that nobody watched called A Score to Settle. And whenever I think about the word beef, all I hear is Nicolas Cage going, "Beef? Beef? You want to see beef? I got beef." And yeah, we're talking about a topic that we don't normally cover very much. I mean, we talk about rock and roll, we talk about punk rock, but we really don't talk about metal, like metal. And I don't know, depending on who you're talking to, they might not even call this metal. They might call this, be like, you call that metal? Like metalheads are so what's the word I'm looking for? Fundamentalist in their metal worship. And a metalhead that's into this kind of metal is going to be fundamentally different from a metalhead that's into other kinds of metal. So some might even be like, dude, you can't even like categorize this as metal. I personally can say what I think of this. I think of this as hair metal. The beef is here, Carla. The beef is here. I think of this as hair metal. That's how I classify it. And really, it's hair metal by way of a band that was doing this 10 years before, 10 years before any of these bands were making record labels like, I don't know, maybe not billions, hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe billions of dollars. In the 80s, you had this band called the New York Dolls. They were doing it first. When I look at Nikki Sixx, all I see is Johnny Thunders. I see a guy who wishes he was Johnny Thunders. I don't know. I don't friggin' know. But, we actually have a metal correspondent here. I have different correspondents for different things. And tonight I've tapped a metal correspondent to really help discuss the beef here because I don't think this is a beef I can tackle by myself. What's up, Jody Ramone? How are you? Good to see you. And we're going to weigh in. Who's in the right and who's in the wrong. That's what we want to determine. Gary X wishes that they were Johnny Thunders. Well, Mick Mars lost a total of 5 inches in height over years. We're going to try, listen, because I have a correspondent, we're going to try and we're going to get to the comments. Don't worry. We'll get to some comments, but this is not a comment fest tonight. Whoa, I realize we have the wrong thing up, although you should still donate to Dan Lamoth's GoFundMe. Dan was a bass player who tragically passed away, and we were trying to raise awareness, further awareness for his fundraiser. Hold on, let me fix this real quick because that's not the show. It made sense to do that on that show. If you want to go check out what that show was, that was the Stellar Corpses show. We were talking about the Stellar Corpses and not the Stellar Corpses, the lead singer of the Stellar Corpses. He's tried to so synonymously blend himself with the Stellar Corpses that you end up trading his name and the Stellar Corpses, interchangeably when that's not the case, because there was a whole band of them. But I digress. We're here to talk about the Crüe. That's what we're here to talk about today. And I'd like to bring out my metal correspondent now. You've seen him before. He's been on the show, and he's been on the show. Frankly, I traveled Europe with this guy. We go back a little ways now. I mean, at the time you wouldn't say we go back, but now it's been enough years that we kind of go back a little ways. Kind of crazy. Let me bring out my metal correspondent. This is JV Bastard. He is here with us, picking his nose. You got any good picks there?
Pick you a winner.
What's
going on?
Winner, chicken dinner. How you doing tonight, Joe?
Good. Doing good.
That's good. That's really good. I'm glad to have you on. We're here to pass judgment on the Crüe. And you know what I love about the subject? I'm so unbiased. I have absolutely no bias. I just don't care.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how versed are you in Mötley Crüe, or how much do you like Mötley Crüe? What's your history with them?
All right. So, I mean, VH1 from 25 years ago is my relationship to even knowing who the Crüe are, behind the music, Girls,
Yes,
girls, girls. Shout at the
classic
devil.
rock.
Dr. Feelgood. I mean, that's really all I know. I know Tommy Lee is for a bunch of different reasons. Vince Neil famously crashed his. Yeah, exactly. Vince Neil killed someone in a drunk driving accident. Surreal Life. What is it? Yeah, the Surreal Life. That was a reality TV show that had Vince Neil on it. Celeb Reality. I mean,
So you're a behind the music greatest hits fan.
I wouldn't even call myself a fan. That's how, VH1 is how I learned a lot about music in general. That was like how I learned about stuff. And so
But
in any case, sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
those documentaries by today's standards suck, man. Like,
By today's standards,
by today's
standards. But back in the day, that was the mammoth jam.
That's all you had.
That was so great. I have to highlight this one comment. He says, "What's up, Jeff? I need your skull." Oh, I should show you guys the new t-shirt design that we are going to be doing some great stuff with. I don't think Joe's too thrilled about the t-shirt design.
It's all right.
It's okay. Joe, let's hear your constructive not right now, but let's hear your constructive feedback at another date and time.
I didn't.
So, all right. So listen, the news is breaking so freaking fast on this Crüe thing that I'm going to read through the latest article that just came out of Variety about 30-ish minutes ago. So way, by the way, I did watch The Dirt. Gary, I did watch The Dirt. So
that's so many inaccuracies though.
I thought it was kind of a goofy movie to begin. I watched it because I like Jeff Tremaine.
It was good. It was entertaining. Absolutely.
I thought it was goofy, man.
That doesn't even go along with the book, let alone does it go away along with reality.
Yeah. Well, in any case, we're going to read this article. So bear with me. I swear to God, it's going to be a super fast read. It's not going to be like a Jeff ADHD read. It's going to be like to the point, concise. And then because the reason why is because I want to open it up. I want to talk about it. I got a bunch of things pulled up. We even have Mick Mars's IEMs, in-ear monitor mixes that are really sort of blow the whole thing open. One last thing I want to say, Machine Gun Kelly, he doesn't stink. He sucks so bad. I so vehemently dislike Machine Gun Kelly, and I really do not like talk about my dislike of things. I so dislike Machine Gun Kelly and his fake punk, whatever that is, his persona, that there was some gangster movie on Hulu, and I turned it off because he was starring in it. I saw it was starring Machine Gun Kelly. I said, I want no part of this. Shut it right off.
Dude, that dude got fucking, sorry, I already did it.
It's all right. It's all right. Try your best.
Tell me not
try your best. But... I know, but try your best. It's not, it is what it is.
He got roasted. That dude got roasted by Eminem so bad he had to leave his genre.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Respect to that, as a matter of fact.
Sure, for sure.
He didn't do a bad job playing Tommy Lee either, to be honest with you.
It was neither, again, like it was so neither here nor there for me. Like I just don't even, like I was considering watching that Pam and Tommy Lee thing on Hulu. I just no interest.
It's funny. It's fun. It's entertaining.
No interest. I want to, but I'm like, I don't even really care. Like there's other things to watch.
You feel bad for them. It humanizes them a lot. You feel really bad for
I feel bad for Pamela Anderson is who I feel bad for. Like
she
put up with so much BS.
Didn't she do a documentary about that? Yeah, she did, dude.
There's a documentary out for her. There's a documentary out about her on Netflix. I have not watched. That's something I want to see. All right, let me read this real quick. This is by Chris Willman, and it just dropped very shortly ago today, April 11th, 2023. Unpacking Mötley Crüe's. Is it Mötley Crüe? Mötley Crüe? How do you say the damn name? What is it?
I don't know.
All right, I'll just say Mötley Crüe. Some fanboys gonna be like, it's actually Samhain. It's actually Samhain, not Samhain. You can't say Samhain. All right, unpacking Mötley Crüe's mess. Manager slams Mick Mars smear campaign. Guitarist lawyer says he is tired of being bullied. Exclusive. The band manager says Mars has only allegedly mimed Wait, says the band manager says Mars has only alleged miming on their part because he's being led along by reps engaging in elder abuse. Mars camp says the group's alleged gaslighting continues.
Oh my
so
God.
Here's the crew. Okay. I'm going to read this super fast, guys. Lightning fast. It may take a great elixir than anything Dr. Feelgood has to offer to elicit positive vibes in the war of words and wits between Mötley Crüe guitarist Mick Mars and the other three members of the group, following headline-making lawsuit filed by Mars alongside the band this week. Lawyers or managers for both sides have spoken with Variety at length about the positions they are doubling down on. If you have to sum it up in a hard rock song, it may be grievances. That is, I feel like there's so many better ways to break that line. That doesn't work. Until now, the crew camp had only issued brief statements and a frustrated tweet from Nikki Sixx. But the band's manager of 29 years, Alan Kovac, was so angered by an interview Mars gave Variety after the suit was filed that he agreed to go on record addressing what he believes are the musicians' most I can't pronounce that word. Scurrilous accusations. What does scurrilous mean? I gotta look it up. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I have to know what this means. Making scurrilous means making or spreading scandalous claims about someone with the intention of damaging the reputation. Great adjective. Yeah, $20 word. It's a $20 word. Yeah, totally. All right. So scurrilous accusations, including whether or not the group's performances are largely on tape. I have a lot of regret that I'm having to do this, the attorney says, pointing out that he talked Nikki Sixx, the group's unofficial leader, out of talking to the press himself, wanting the bassist to keep taking the high road. So the manager didn't want Nikki Sixx to go to the press. And now even he is so taken aback by what Mars is saying that he feels he needs to speak up. Meanwhile, Mars attorney Edwin F. McPherson has elaborated on what he feels his client elaborated on why he feels his client reached such a breaking point that he decided to not just file suit, but go public with how he feels the band has done him wrong. And now his 41-year run with the group appears to be coming to a contentious end, which kind of has me rolling my eyes just a little bit, because these guys were never supposed to tour again. They signed a contract. Even I know that. They had a whole thing about it. It
wasn't even 10 years ago.
Yeah, they pulled the kiss. So that kind of makes me roll my eyes a little bit.
It wasn't 5 years ago.
Yeah, so it's I'm already, but again, I'm not a Crüe fan, so it's I don't really care. Kovac says Mars is coming out with a list of allegations to gain leverage in a smear campaign on Mötley. He's attacked the band, and he's done it in a slanderous way with false accusations and misrepresenting the facts to the fans. Mars is not the victim. The victims are Mötley Crüe and the brand, which Mick is so prideful of. But the manager adds, what's upsetting to me is not Mick, but his representatives who have guided Mick to say and do harmful things to the brand that he cares so much about Mötley Crüe. He has a degenerative disease and people are taking advantage of him. It's called elder abuse. So this is kind of mind-boggling on several different levels. Firstly is that their narrative here, or the angle they're trying to push, is we're not even mad at Mick. This isn't Mick. This is the Mick's handlers who are doing this. When it's Mick on the other side, well, we'll get to that in a second. Mick, who is at full force. So it's kind of almost a little condescending, or I don't know. This is crazy.
Is it really elder abuse when a 64-year-old gets in a fight with a 71-year-old?
Yeah, I don't think so. Is it really? Is that the difference in age? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Yeah. What's up, Amy? Shout out to Amy and Biz. I see you both. Minister. He continues. Mick's representatives have no idea what they've created, but I've stopped the band from speaking about this, so they're not going to turn the fans against Mick. Oh, thank God. Oh, so glad to hear that. But I am going to make sure that people understand that Mick hasn't been treated badly. In fact, he was treated better than anyone else in the band, and they carried him and they saved his life. Kovac mentions that Sixx once famously got a tattoo of Mars to show his loyalty to him. To McPherson, though, that doesn't count for much now, says the guitarist attorney. Just because you get a tattoo of someone does not mean you get to oust them from your band's corporations and LLCs 41 years after they start with you. I would agree with that. This article is doing a good job of trying to explain both sides at the same time while push the narrative forward. The filing by Mars's lawyer Thursday had at its core a simple request. The musician is asking the court to compel Crüe's team to produce records and documents that they've been unduly sluggish about turning over in Mars, because that's what they do during lawsuits. They have this period of time called, what the hell is it called? Oops, shouldn't have cursed. Not cross-examining, what's it called? Discovery, cross-discovery. So you exchange information with the other side, and then you discover things in their records, and that's what allows you to build your case. So I think maybe that's what he's referring to here. They've been unduly sluggish about turning over, in Mars' view, prior to arbitration that is likely to settle their court disputes. So there's documents and records that could settle these court disputes, and they've been sluggish to do it. But the main legal purpose of the writ was of far less interest to the band's millions of fans than supporting documentation that included a long accounting of Mars' disputes with the other three members and their management. 3 essential questions have captured the curiosity of Mötley Crüe fans. Maybe Joe and I should try and answer those along the way. Let's see.
It's Mötley. Let's go with that.
It is Mötley.
M-O-T.
Mötley. Thank you. Wow, Joe's being such a good JV right now. That's good job, Joe. All right. 3 essential questions that have captured the curiosity of Mötley Crüe fans and the merely curious, that I would put myself in the merely curious category, since last week's lawsuit and Mars's follow-up interview. So, I mean, even someone like me who is so out of the periphery of this stuff, like it leaked over into my world, and I'm going, what's the deal with this? What's up, Angus McCorder? How are you? David DLW, how are you? It's like, oh, okay, what is going on here? We got to get to the bottom of this. So here are the 3 questions. I'm going to ask them. Joe, I want to hear what you think. Ready?
Oh, man.
Question number 1. Did he quit the band as others would have it, or is he being ousted? 2. Does retiring from touring constitute resigning altogether? And 3, as a dishy side plate, who really can't cut it on stage anymore? The other 3 members whose tour performances Mars contended were largely pre-taped, or Mars himself, who the other members say was unable to properly remember or execute his parts on his final stadium tour with them in 2022. I think not only do I have to have Joe answer these questions, but we now have to go. We have a tape. To listen to. We're going to play it for you in a minute. So, Joe, I'm going to give Joe the floor for a second. Joe, for question 1, did he quit the band or was he ousted?
I don't know. None of us know. I mean, there's a whole lot of gray there, dude. There's a whole lot more than he was just leaving the band, dude. I mean, he was sick for so many years. They quit. He had a difference in if you ask Mick Mars, he probably didn't want to go on with touring at all. He probably wanted to honor the contract and then breaking up,
that was probably
clearly.
It's funny, that contract probably, I would imagine that he probably pushed for that, because he was like, let's do that, because again, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Crüe as I am, Mick, for his entire life or whatever, he has a form of I don't know what exactly it is, but he has this thing where his spine and his neck or something are all fused together. So the guy
is like, his whole life.
Yeah, he's in incredible pain. He is super physically debilitated. It is, Joe is a musician. Joe, it's hard to play a show when you're, at full capacity. Imagine doing it like with your neck fused to your spine.
Yep.
So there's, he had a lot of sort of ailments, and it kind of makes me wonder, was that whole we're coming to an end thing from the Mars camp, and maybe not the Nikki Sixx and the other guys who were like, no, let's keep going, blah, 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 that sort of thing.
I think Mick wanted out, rightfully so. I mean,
Yeah.
There is a good difference in age between them. I mean, like, I think Nikki's the oldest of them, aside from Mars, and he's 64, and Mars is 71.
These guys are all comparably. How old is? Find out, Joe.
71 and permanently
Joe,
disabled.
pull this ish up. How old are all 4 members of Mötley Crüe? Please find out.
I just looked it up.
Oh, you did? Okay.
71 for Mick Mars. It's 64 for Nikki Sixx. I could show you. It's on my phone. It's still in the history.
It's okay. Just what about Tommy Lee and Vince Neil?
Okay. How do you spell Lee?
Lee.
Thanks. He's 60.
He's 60. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the youngest. That's right.
He's youngin'.
Vince Neil might be his age, actually. They went to high school together. 62.
Okay.
62.
By the way, as an aside, and I never like to, DLW says Vince Neil. That is one of Vince Neil's nicknames. And like, I got to tell you, like, in general, I don't like to make fun of people for like how they physically look, but like, there's something about
There's plenty to make fun of Vince Neil about, man.
Vince Neil, there's something about like I saw like video of Vince Neil playing on stage, and I just could not stop cracking up at like it's like the amount, like he's so lazy. He's so like he just seems so utterly lazy.
And he's got it really easy too. Like
it's like
no, I mean, he's got all these chicks behind him too, like doing the bulk of the job for him. Like he's always they've had chicks for years. They got
you mean like backup singers off stage.
Like think about Glenn Howie's
yeah.
Dude, come on.
Yeah.
Vince Neil in an arena, you know how much he gets to stick that mic out, and he's got people singing behind, and he's got like tracks running and all that shit.
We're gonna see in a few moments. We're gonna see that because we gotta go to the tape. But okay, so that was the first question we asked. The second question, this is a big one. And I have an answer, but let's hear what Joe's answer is first. Does retiring from touring constitute resigning altogether? What do you say?
Again, I feel like I'm cheaping out of your questions because, again, I don't know. There's gray area, man. Like, I
don't think it's gray area at all.
Depends on the terms of their contract. Who owns Mötley Crüe? Like what is Mötley Crüe? Is that an entity of the 4 of them? Like what is it? I don't know.
I would say. So I don't really. Joe didn't really give me much of any kind of answer. He just, Joe, at least give me some. Give me a little something. Give me fuel. Give me fire. Give me that which I desire.
That's good.
Give me something. All right, fine. I will say what I think, and then Joe, you can bounce off of that. How about this? I say absolutely, unequivocally not, for a few reasons. And again, we have just the way like in law, like how like you prove a law or you set laws by precedents brought by previous court cases. Like you cite a court case from like 30 years ago. It's like in so-and-so versus so-and-so, blah, 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 blah.
So matter of fact, isn't it? Whenever someone says that, it's so matter of no one ever looked into that.
Well, it just somehow like it creates a precedent, and it's the same thing in rock and roll law.
How can they never check that fact? No one's ever been like, oh yeah, show me.
Yeah, let me go to I'm opening up the rock and roll law book, and I'm under B for Beach Boys. We have Brian Wilson, founding member and routine genius of the Beach Boys, who in 1965 was like, I don't want to tour with you guys anymore. So they got Bruce Johnston. Okay. They tapped him to play bass. Bruce Johnston's been with Mike Love as some variation of the Beach Boys. To me, it's not the Beach Boys without Brian Wilson and Al Jardine and whatnot, but he's been with their version of the Beach Boys, whatever you want to call that. Those guys have been touring all the way up till now. They do like 160 shows a year. Bruce Johnston does. So he replaced he replaced what's his face live, right? Brian Wilson, who's the brain, the genius, the leader behind the Beach Boys. He goes into the studio and becomes a studio only musician, and he records Pet Sounds. Everybody knows Beach Boys Pet Sounds. Pet Sounds doesn't feature any of the other guys from the Beach Boys. I mean, it does, like the vocals and stuff, but all the musicians who play, those aren't the Beach Boys. Those are actually members of the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah,
the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah.
Right. So
their name, man.
There's a great documentary about them, actually.
Oh, it's fantastic. I know it's
but he still is absolutely he's synonymously still a Beach Boy. He's recording music as the Beach Boys without the Beach Boys who are touring. So that's my first precedent. Second precedent. The Beatles stop touring altogether and go into the studio to record Sgt. Pepper. Everybody thought that the Beatles were breaking up or going to break up because they stopped playing live, but in fact they became a studio only band.
Was Tommy Ramone on the payroll? Dee Dee Ramone was on the payroll.
I was just about to say that was literally going to be my next
That's going to be law. I think we'll go Ramones is law.
Well, here's the thing. Dee Dee Ramone leaves the Ramones, but he's still writing for the band and would contribute songs all the way up until the breakup. Which kept the sort of, kept the continuity of the Ramones. So therefore, you have, and the same thing can be said for the guy so the drummer from the B-52s, I forget his name, he moved up to guitar when his brother died. There are 5 core members of the B-52s. When the guitarist died, Keith something, I think his name is, when he died, the drummer became the new guitarist. And then one day, he was like, I'm retiring from touring, but I'm still in the B-52s whenever you guys go into the studio. Right. So to me, in my personal opinion of rock and roll law, Mick Mars absolutely unequivocally is still a member of the crew, whether he is out there playing live shows or not, especially if they're continuing to make new music.
Well, what entails a member? I'm just saying, I mean, if they're on the payroll, Jason Newsted's not a member of Metallica. He's on the payroll. I don't know.
Why is he on hold on. He's still on the payroll of Metallica?
Of course, he makes royalties out the wazoo on like the biggest.
Yeah, but that doesn't make you having royalties does not make you on the payroll.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That doesn't absolutely.
He's on the payroll.
So you're saying he's on the payroll outside of getting royalties?
Yeah.
Absolutely. In what way, shape, or form?
Probably zillions, dude.
That is like
you're talking Metallica. You're talking Metallica. You know how many albums that guy's probably been on?
Yeah, but you're talking about royalties,
singles and records. Yeah. I'm talking about Metallica royalties.
Hold on.
Metallica royalties.
But he's not a member of Metallica anymore because he doesn't record with them and he doesn't play live.
I know. I agree with you. That's what I was saying. Look up his net worth.
I'm sure it's huge. Hold on. Still on Metallica payroll. I'm checking right now. I'm going to actually Google that and see what comes up. I think that's a weird statement to make. Metallica. Does he still make money from Metallica? Of course he does.
Absolutely. I like the Ramones. I thought that was a way better.
The Ramones really.
Tommy and Dee Dee left the band and were still in the band. They were in the entity of the Ramones. They were on the payroll. They wrote songs.
Tommy was producing. He was producing for the Ramones.
He was a good guy.
So I think unequivocally we can unanimously agree that retiring from touring does not constitute resigning altogether. Okay, that's just straight up.
You know what? It's like baseball, maybe. Like Tommy Ramone,
benching
with an outfielder, and he got old, and now he's a pitching coach.
He's
assistant coach.
These guys get benched. That doesn't mean that they're gone from the team.
Yep.
And then the third item, and this isn't one I can't really speak to except for the recording that I listened to, which is really the only thing that I can weigh in on. Who is? Oh, wait, I lost it. Hold on a second. Stupid ad. Whose tour performances were largely pre-taped? Wait. Who's really can't? Sorry. The question is, who really can't cut it on stage anymore? The other three members whose tour performances Mars contended were largely pre-taped or Mars himself, who the other members say was unable to properly remember or execute his parts on his final stadium tour with them in 2022. What do you say, Joe?
In all my years of reading rock news, I've never heard Mick Mars accused of anything but being an awesome guitar player.
And on the flip side, Mötley Crüe, even outside of my very limited knowledge, even I know that Mötley Crüe is guilty of using what are known as drum triggers, right? You have a drum trigger, you have
Who is this?
backup singers, backup choruses. You were talking about the girls or whatever you want to say.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Although there's a accusation that Nikki Sixx isn't playing bass, which doesn't really make sense to me because Nikki Sixx looks like a very spry, energetic performer. Why could he not play bass?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe so he could pump his fist with his left hand and his right hand and fucking. I mean, dude, you're talking about a guy who also he's got like a flamethrower. Like, I mean, that show it's only less than Kiss as far as like.
Is it really? I did not know that about. Well, yeah, they have the upside down drumming cage, right? There's that whole thing.
It's.
All right, let's go to the tape. Let's go to the tape real quick.
I got a question. How does Rammstein fare against Kiss?
I don't know anything about Rammstein. That's with the Sheepheads, right?
Who's the top production band? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I would still say
Kiss. The Golden Seal.
What about Slipknot?
That's a good show, but
I've never seen that show either. I just know that those guys do lots of crazy stuff on stage.
Yeah, crazy show.
All right, here we go. We're gonna listen right now. Hopefully this doesn't get us flagged. I hope it doesn't. Maybe it will. I'll just have to cut it out later. All right, we're gonna listen right now. This leaked. This is interesting. This leaked, and they'll probably talk about it more in that article when we come back to it. But basically, at some point within this whole back and forth feud, somebody leaked something that's called the IEM, which is the in-ear monitoring system of Mick Mars. Joe, as our metal correspondent as well as musician correspondent, can you please explain what exactly an IEM is for anybody who might not be familiar? Why do you have it? What's the point? How does it work? This is what's the deal?
It's a monitor that goes inside your ear. It's like they're like custom fitted and they're all cool and like waterproof and stuff. They go in your head. And they're monitors, so you don't have to rely on the monitors on the stage. So you're getting a perfect mix or the same mix every night.
Explain what are the monitors for, as opposed
for you to hear.
Right.
When you're playing on stage, you're not hearing the house. I mean, you're hearing the house a little bit, but you to rely on your monitors. Sometimes not even your amp. Sometimes you don't have an amp on stage, especially on a huge stage like that. You may not hear your amp. When Nikki Sixx or when Mick Mars goes all the way on Nikki Sixx's side, he doesn't hear his amp. He hears Nikki Sixx's monitors. And that's why they have to do that, because like when the guys cross like that, you want to be able to hear yourself wherever you go. That's why Metallica can play in a circle, go to any microphone. It doesn't matter because they're all on in-ear monitors that keep the same mix every night. So what's really cool, and the technology that they're using and what you're going to hear in this video is like, I guess they just add an extra cues to it. So it's like, it'll tell him what the name of the next song is.
Right. Yeah.
It'll count 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes the monitors will tell them where not to stand as far as pyrotechnics and stuff like that. Like backstage, like a red area, like it tells you where to stand on the stage. It might tell you lyrics. It could give you any type of cue in the song. Sometimes at the last bar of a song, it'll tell you like ends now, and it's a voice in his head that tells it their notes. Yeah. I mean, and I guess the answer is that you could have whatever you wanted fed to those notes, it's whatever you want to hear. And, so it's really cool. It's not cheating to do that, but the reason they do it, we're going to see about, like the accusation of Tommy Lee coming in and like missing the first hi-hat hit. That stuff was on the tape. I'm sorry. Yeah, Tommy comes in on that. And if you hear, I'm sorry, I lost my place.
You were just talking about all the different, well, we were talking about in-ear monitors, but you started to go into what we are about to hear on the tape, which is good too, because it gives a good sort of understanding. But basically, overall, monitors are, the way that sound works is, just because you're playing and blasting sound out this way does not mean you're going to also hear an accurate representation of the sound that's being pushed out to an audience as it is on the stage. And therefore, you need something to monitor what is being put out there in your face, so you can actually hear and play. And these in-ear systems are so advanced. Yeah, the monitors are so right to monitor. The monitors are so advansed. They're custom fit.
That's what I was saying. It keeps them safe, as far as like it gives them cues for the pyrotechnics and stuff like that too.
Right. I mean, and it protects your hearing as well to an extent.
There's nothing cheating about using in-ear monitors,
Of course not. Of course not.
And when you're doing a show that big, everything is on a program or a click like that, because it's easier to sync. We're in a computer age, man. It's easier to sync it up. The lights go off of that. The drums go. If everything stays on that,
it's
so
basically,
that's what it's like.
For those of you who are familiar with
not cheating to do that.
For those of you who are familiar with what a show flow of show is, if anybody ever runs a stage, that's basically like the script of the show. It's like all of that stuff can go in the ear. But let's digress for a second, and we're gonna go do the thing, guys. I'm gonna try not to talk. Apparently, when you what's up, Dagger Love in the house. All right, ready? I'm gonna press play. Hopefully you can hear this. Sounds quiet, but you're literally hearing what Mick Mars hears.
Girls, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
What's funny is, all he wants in that mix is himself.
Right. Can we just pause and that is Joe, I have to say, that is doesn't that say it all?
Yeah,
that
all he wanted to hear is himself.
He's carrying the show, so therefore he can't have any distractions. He just needs the bare minimum, and then he's, as you're about to see, to spoil it for you, Mick Mars is clearly not the one that's lying here. Mick Mars basically leaked this to show everybody that he is absolutely a competent player, that he's not even relying on the other members of the band to play, and is still like smoking the crap at 41. He's still smoking the shit out of this at 71 years old, with all of his injuries and whatnot. I mean, the dude's a friggin' Superman. That's the reality. All right, I'm going to skip ahead because I'm already bored. Here.
Listen to this dude, man. Give him a verse.
Oh my God. So I just want to say, I could be wrong here, but it doesn't even sound like Vince Neil is singing along to the track.
He is.
Like, is he off a little bit though?
No, he's actually pretty good right now.
What about Tommy Lee?
Tommy Lee. It's funny that Mick doesn't want the drums.
Well, explain why that's funny. What's
It's
so funny about that?
Because it's funny that he'd rather hear it than Tommy Lee playing or the drums, you know, like. And I mean, that's why tracks will start to exist and stuff like that, because at that point, like, it's easier to feed to Mick Mars a drum machine than it is to send Tommy, because Tommy might mess up. The drum machine won't. So what goes to his monitor is more ideal than the drums, actually.
And listen, we love Cousin Doyle, but the reason why AC Slade is on the stage is because it's not because Doyle is not playing. It's because Glenn needs to follow AC. He follows AC. He can't follow Doyle with the way Doyle has his rig set up and all his distortion and all his stuff. Glenn needs AC and AC's guitar playing in order to follow the track and not Doyle. And that's why there's two guitar players. It's the same sort of situation. So a lot of people will say, oh, Doyle's not even playing. Of course he's playing. Of course Doyle's playing. If you've ever gone to a Doyle show, you've seen Doyle play. He's absolutely playing. But his style of playing is not palatable to Glenn Danzig. And so Glenn Danzig needs AC Slade to, you know, follow along. That is true. That is the deal. That is the deal. But when you said that just now about Tommy Lee and the drum track, that's what I thought of immediately. And I just had to say it out loud. So we love you, Cousin Doyle, but that's the truth.
Yo,
What?
jump ahead a song. Jump ahead
Okay.
a little bit. Let's give, like,
Yeah.
Vince is doing good here.
Recording on Zoom.
Oh no, don't want that.
Vince,
Yeah,
Vince,
you know what the problem
part of
is? You know what the problem is? You kind of like the problem here. I'm going to do this off screen so it doesn't whatchamacallit. The problem with listening to that click track is it really is kind of hypnotic. And then you just it's like the way like lizards like get like hypnotized by like the cold and like they like get paralyzed and they can't move. It's like sort of the same thing. All right, here we go. Ready?
Primal.
Oh, so check that out. Ready?
Primal. Could have had a cooler voice. Fucking rope.
Primal.
Primal.
Yeah.
See, I look at Nikki Sixx and I'm like, this guy just wants to be Johnny Thunders. It's just so lame.
Nikki
Sorry.
Sixx, man. Get a little better for Nikki Sixx. I'm surprised it's not his wife in the inner monitors.
Oh yeah? Why do you say that? He looks kind of like a pirate. So
Yo, he's dressed like a wrestler.
who is? Which one?
Vince Neil, look at him, man.
It's so
you know,
funny looking.
Look, he's got ring entrance attire on.
He's so uninterested in what he's doing too. Like he just does not care. He's just like, yeah, I'm making $1 million right now, just bopping my hands along. Look at him.
He looks so much more like a wrestler than he does a rock and roll singer.
You know, I got to tell you, that is the saddest part for me. Like when I see like Kiss and all these like old like monsters of rock bands, like the saddest part is that they just seem so tired and uninterested in what they are doing. Like they just seem like they just stand there like someone's got to stick up them. And you want to know something? I got to hand it again. I got to hand it to the Misfits and Glenn, Jerry, and Doyle and the rest of them, like just going out there. And like you look at Jerry only power sliding on the stage, like super
Awesome,
stoked. Yeah,
Awesome.
it's amazing. It's friggin' amazing. Like bands are supposed to like get more decrepit as they get older. And here's Jerry only like at his best, Glenn jumps out like kicking and going crazy for Death Comes Ripping. Like these guys, like the Doyle's like bashing down on his guitar. Like these guys, like by all means could just be dialing it in like every other band, and they don't. And that's the difference. I'm watching this.
Should be.
Yeah, but I'm watching this and I'm like, this is so like sad. And like people pay like hundreds of dollars to see these shows. Look at him. He's like, like it's just so, I don't know. Sorry if there are any Crüe fans in the audience.
I like Mötley Crüe.
Yeah, but you like them now? Now
I saw them on the last tour.
Yeah.
I've seen them.
Saw this. So you saw
the last
this.
10 years. I've seen them like twice in the last 10 years.
Doing on a band of blues. Wait, right?
Dude, his verses are bad, dude.
Wait, ready? Dude,
You
that's
can do
funny,
it to
man.
you can take any show, anything, and it's like that.
Wait,
bad.
say that again.
You can go to any show in the last 8 years, and that's what it's like.
It's just so like he's barely, and I'll even say
Doesn't
this.
enunciate anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna sound like a real jackass with what I say next. Like even watching like Angus Young from AC/DC, like with Axl Rose. We were watching that the other day. I was watching that on the channel the other day. And I'm kind of like, I was so, because, I've seen like all these videos, like when Angus is young, he's like friggin' out of his mind. And now he's just like, even him, he's like,
I don't know,
like,
man. I thought Angus was great with AC/DC.
I don't know. It just seems like, I'll be honest with you. But then, I go to see Iggy Pop at the Capitol Theater, and the dude is 69 years old. His one leg is shorter than the other, and he's stage diving at 69 years old. I mean, the insanity of stage diving at 69 years old.
Dude, punk rock made old younger. It really did.
True. It's true. When you're, and I don't know, man. That's why, like, when I look at this stuff, I'm just so, I don't know.
Yo, how old are like the Rolling Stones?
That was another video that we watched. We watched the Stones, and like, Mick Jagger has slowed down a lot in the last 10 to 12 years. But 10 to 12 years ago, Mick Jagger was like, he was like a cock of the walk, dude. He was just out there. Dude, he was out there. But I mean, he still is. I mean, he's still doing a 2.5 hour show at 79. Paul McCartney is still doing a 3 hour show at like 80. I mean, these guys, you have to hand it to them. Of course, they have like, they're doing yoga and probably on crazy vitamin regimens and all sorts of, rich people stuff. Yeah, 80. But yeah, McCartney's 80, man. It's like, it's crazy. All right, do we get the? Wait.
What if you could do?
Let's look at that one, and then we're gonna go back to the read and call our final judgment here. Well, let me just play this real quick. So you've seen the Crüe a bunch of times.
What?
You've seen the Crüe a bunch of times.
Yeah, man. I was a late bloomer on Mötley Crüe. I didn't like him when I was a kid. I kind of grew to like him. I liked some of their new music at one point. I got into like one of their greatest hits CDs had like 2 new songs on it, and it was awesome. And I really I got into them through a greatest hits CD.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so look, here we go. What Mick Mars is doing here. He's doing some. All right, there you go, man. I think that really says it all. So here you got Nikki Sixx and Vince. You got Vince Neil sort of moping around the stage, but Nikki Sixx is still like active and moving around and stuff. And it's kind of like, I guess it's like they're like, well, even though he's the only one who's really playing, all that really matters is that we're lively on stage and we have dance. We have a great stage show and we can get Johnny 5 in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether we have Mick Mars or not.
I mean, John 5 is playing that stuff really true to how Mick Mars played it from what I saw. Okay. Clearly he could tear that up and do his own thing on it. And from what I saw, he played him. He's up there just playing him. From what I saw. I didn't watch a whole bunch, but
let's keep reading the article and then let's pass our judgment on. I think we're already on the same page here. I think we're both well aware of what the deal is. So the deal, who's right and who's wrong.
Oh yeah. We're on the same.
So to answer that third question, I think unanimously the answer is Mars. Mars is the only one who can cut it on stage. Despite being the most disabled, he's the only one who's actually cutting it on stage.
At the end of the day, the guy's like, what did we say? 74 was it? Or
71.
71? 71 years old. He joined that band when he was 30. He's been old the entire time he was in the band. In a debilitating position the entire fucking time. Give him the fucking money. Give him whatever money he wants. He's gonna live 10 more years, 8 more years. Give him the fucking money.
Joe, those are all
you're gonna drag his name. You're gonna drag his name through the mud after all that and drag the corpse of your band around like that.
Those are all the worst reasons. Those are all the worst reasons to give him the money,
old.
Not because he's old.
They're millionaires.
You give him the money because he's worth it, because he deserves it, not because,
Sure, of course. Give him the fucking money, though.
Yes, give him the money. But here's the thing about money. Money can be very sticky. And you know what else is sticky? Stickers. And here on this channel, we are sponsored by riotstickers.com, the finest sticker emporium in all the land. They don't just do stickers. Look at this banner that they printed for me. CEO Sharpie Riot himself printed this banner with his hands. Okay? Till his hands were bleeding. These are stickers. Look at these stickers. We have the Life in Slimes of Dookie Fly Swatter. We got Frumess stickers. These stickers are printed on vinyl. They have a UV coating on them, and they are waterproof. And they're guaranteed to weather the elements outside for a minimum of 5 years. But here's the craziest part of all. Uncle Sharpie might have lost his mind. You know why? Because he decided to partner with the Frumess channel to do a special deal. You can only get this deal on the Frumess channel. You go to riotstickers.com/Frumess, FRUMESS. Link is in the description. And you can actually get 1,000 of those stickers for $79. You don't understand how good of a deal this is. 1,000 stickers, 3 inches by 3 inches. And let me tell you something. That's 7 cents a sticker. 7 cents a sticker. So let's say that you're doing marketing. Let's say that you're spending $300 on Facebook ads. I hope you're not, but let's say that you are. Let's say that you were doing that. For a mere fraction of that price, you could invest in 1,000 3-inch by 3-inch banners that will stick to wherever you put them, all around your town, all around your neighborhood. You could be doing all sorts of grassroots on guerrilla marketing out in the streets. If you have a logo, if you have an image, riotstickers.com, that's the way to go. 7 cents a sticker, vinyl.
It's crazy.
They're printed on vinyl, friggin' UV coating. Let's listen to the Less Than Jake theme song that we all know and love.
Dude, it gets stuck in my head all the time.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads. We can print on shirts. We can print on hats. We can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality.
And
I
we're
love that
back.
song.
What were you gonna say?
I think I love that song.
It's a
If
great
I don't
song.
love it, and I hate it,
It's an earworm. It's an
It is.
earworm in your head.
Yep.
Where did we leave off? We were talking. Okay, here's where we picked up in the article. Ready? I'm gonna
They
keep
didn't give him
reading
the
this
money.
sucker. Yeah, give him the money for
Just
sure.
give him the money.
All right, ready? Last week, the crew camp made available to Variety 7 signed declarations from key crew members who worked on the 2022 tour, all alleging that Mars's performances in rehearsals and the 30 tour dates were a little short of disastrous, throwing the other band members off their game or forcing personnel to switch to pre-recorded parts to cover the guitarist's frequent mistakes. And as we just saw, as we just watched, we know that is absolute and utter horsebucky. We know it. That is absolutely not true. That's why Mick released the track or leaked the tracks, because he just straight up was like, what better way to show that my bandmates are lying than by to play these tracks? Okay.
When was the video posted? Actually,
2 days ago.
Oh, really?
By the way, you got to lean a little bit to the other side of the screen because you're flirting with the curtain
You
there.
know what it was? I think I had mine was reversed and it went like, I don't know. I see us very small in the corner.
Yeah, it's just because of the current setup. But yeah, you got to move over a little bit. McPherson, Mars' attorney, was infuriated by the release of the documents, citing Mars as the egregious weak link on stage. It is interesting that these declarations about Mick's playing are from employees of Mötley Crüe who rely on the band for their livelihood. I mean, duh, the lawyer says. I noticed that there are no declarations from anyone other than members playing or not playing. He continues, did you ever wonder why Mötley Crüe's lawyers drafted declarations stating that Mick was unfit to perform successfully on tour and had them signed, a bet by people whose livelihoods depended on pleasing Mötley Crüe, in response to Mick announcing that he is retiring from touring? If Mick is so bad, isn't it a matter of problem solved? The bottom line is, this case is not about whether or not Mick can still play. It isn't even about whether the other band members are playing anything at all. But if you are going to gather disparaging declarations from employees and kick someone out of the band for not properly playing properly, ironically, after he tells you that he can no longer handle touring anymore, you better get out of your glass house.
Yeah. It's good art.
Oof. I mean, first of all, Mick has a great lawyer.
Who wrote that?
The lawyer did.
That's a statement from the lawyer.
That's the statement from
To
the
the
lawyer.
press.
Yeah. They are literally, you know what's amazing about this lawsuit? We've seen lawsuits by media before, or sorry, trial by media before, but this is like litigation via public opinion in a way that I've never seen. I mean, it's pretty crazy when you think about it.
I mean, I don't know. I'd say public opinion. Everyone's is for Mars here, man. Who isn't? Like, why not just give them the money?
I mean,
Look at what we're doing.
I think they're gonna have to. And here's my other question is, like, why would you try and like screw this guy over when he clearly can prove that you are the ones that are incompetent by just releasing his in-ear monitoring recordings? It's like he didn't even fret. They made those declarations, and he without hesitation, he's like, here's me playing.
Do you think?
Go ahead.
Do you think that we've gotten to a point where they're so low to get press that these guys fight before they go on tour, so they get these headlines?
You know what's funny?
I always go back to that.
I think you're so on the money. I really do. I think that not Mars, mind you, it's not Mars. It's Mötley Crüe freaking out about not being not having their secret weapon and not being relevant and being like, we need to do something to bring people
also,
to the table.
Ding dong. Who else is doing that? Who else is this going on with right now? Like, where else is this strategy being used right now in rock music right now? Kiss.
Oh, I don't know.
The
Oh, yeah,
same
right.
thing
Kiss.
is happening with Kiss right now.
Yes, with the Ace Frehley and Paul Stanley, which ultimately amounts to a big fat nothing.
They're always just behind each other like that, dude. You know, like that.
You're right.
Hey,
You're right. It's almost like it's so you think that maybe this is
It's all hooey. It's all
conspiracy?
hooey. It's all
So you
hooey.
think Mars is in on this?
Yep.
That would be
Getting
really
that
something
paper,
else.
stacking the paper, dude.
This is that they're doing the WWF play, right? They're just
What did Ace Frehley say? Like, remember Ace Frehley was like he was gonna release all those papers and everything like that, and then he thought about it for a week. He thinks about it for a week, right? And then he's like, oh, he realized that like he still makes 25% of his money from Kiss, so he's not gonna really trash Kiss because he knows, And dude, Ace Frehley's a piece of work, dude. That guy's funny.
I met Ace Frehley a bunch of times. I used to know his
He was
daughter.
at Dingbats like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, he used to live in Chappaqua.
Bar.
He used to live 10 minutes north of me, 15 minutes north of me for years.
I don't like
all right, let's keep going. Let's keep going here. So the depositions include touring production manager Robert Long, who says he worked with Mars and the band for 16 years writing. He would consistently miss notes, play out of tune, play the wrong chords during a song, stay within a chorus of a song and never come out of it, forget the song that he was playing and start a different one, and would get lost in the songs. This happened at every This happened at every show. Our sound technician would have to carefully monitor Mick and play tracks when Mick would go so far off course. Otherwise, the whole performance would be a disaster. Our playback engineer put cues for Mick so he would stay on course, but he would miss the cues. Long further says that he had to convince Mars guitar tech not to quit the tour. But it was Mars who was first to go public with an accusation that the others were not up to snuff. The suit he filed last week goes far into how the other band members accuse him as the 2020 tour went along of not being able to remember or flubbing parts, and that they had communicated a belief that this was evidence of cognitive decline. In his Variety interview, he admitted to the occasional brain fart. He says every so often, blaming any greater problems on bad monitor mixes that included distorted pre-recordings. But Mars was mostly on the offense, saying that 100% of Nikki Sixx's bass parts were on tape, and the subsequent parts of Vince Neil's singing and Tommy Lee's drumming were pre-recorded. In contrast to his own, he says 100% live playing. Kovac now offers what he says is a transparent view of what is happening on stage in the band shows, which he says involves the barest possible amount of pre-recording. Everything is live with Nikki's bass playing and Tommy's drum playing, insists the manager. When they've used loops, they're still playing. There are augmented vocals, which were recorded in the studio and are backgrounds behind the two ladies who are singing, and other backing vocals by John 5 and Nikki Sixx. This literally sounds like he's like, well, look, they're playing live, but everything is also recorded at the same time. That's like literally what he is saying.
It's what it is. I mean,
he says he describes the pre-recorded vocal layering as where you multi-track and you do gang vocals with like 20 people, just like all the other bands do with background vocals. They've got background vocals in the mix. That means
the chicks ain't even singing.
No, what it means is he's literally saying, he's like, look, bottom line, they're playing live. Even when there's pre-recordings, they're playing, but the drums are slightly pre-recorded, and so are the bass slightly pre-recorded, and some of the vocals are slightly pre-recorded, and but they're still doing it. It's just
Dude,
such BS.
To be fair though, that has been going on since the beginning of time.
I know.
No live record. It's a live record. No live record. Is
not even the
Ramones.
Live record. Not even the Ramones. Not even the Ramones.
How it's done, man. Just now.
It is just how it's done. That's not true. There are live recordings, but they are far and few between.
They're always dressed in post, though.
They are heavily.
They're all live recordings. They just add tracks to them.
I would say the jam bands are an exception to that rule. The jam bands are truly live recordings. I mean, when you look at when you look at the Grateful Dead, when they had their wall of sound and they had every individual bass string on Phil Lesh's bass has its own channel. You know what I mean? And they were recording like 32 tracks of everything. every little fart, every little burp has its own multi-track on a Grateful Dead recording. Dagger presents a good point. Evil Live is a true live recording. That it is, Dagger. That it is.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, they do. That is generally the case. Everything is live with Nikki's bass playing and Tommy's drum playing assistant manager. Oh no, we already read that part. But Nikki playing his bass, but Nikki played his bass and always has. Kovac continues. Vince was singing better than he was before on the last tour. This was in reviews. Now John 5 is playing like who John 5 is. I've heard John 5 perform and I heard Mick perform. Both are great guitar players. Unfortunately, Mick is not the same. He hasn't been the same for a long time, which is in reviews. You see that the professionals knew. Def Leppard, which alternated headlining spots on tour, knew. And Mars caused a train wreck up there because he would play the wrong songs in the wrong parts. Even with the guide tracks, when he played the wrong song, it wasn't Nikki Sixx, and it wasn't Nikki Sixx that had a tape. It was the sound man bringing it into the mix so the audience could hear a song, even though the guitar player was playing a different song. He says audiences would hear it first, but sound engineers would fix it so that we could keep the song going. I heard it. I'd go to the soundboard. Now, they're also, I mean, this is kind of really insulting of just audiences in general. You mean to tell me that an audience of, thousands of people doesn't know when they're switching over to like a pre-taped thing, if a song is not going right? You know what I mean?
I was somewhere else. Sorry.
I'm saying, do you think that like audiences are too stupid to not, you think an audience is foolish and stupid to not realize that, they're being like duped with a pre-tape track?
Yeah. People have believed it for years.
Yeah.
People believe live records are live. Talk to anyone for a minute and they believe that a live record's live. Like the layman, like any person on the street generally thinks that a live record's live. So yeah.
Well, he says they've honored their commitment and propped him up. Kovac says, now there's a new guitar player. I want people to hear the difference. They're going to play the US again in a bunch of markets, and people will be able to use their own ears just like they can in their own judgment about third-party declarations and contracts instead of spin. Nonetheless, in the past, right. Nonetheless, in the past, concert goers have posted video clips of moments where they think members are not performing live, and sometimes hot topic of discussion for any band that's seen in a stadium setting, with fans interpreting what they believe is really happening in those moments. Mars' team says it collected some of those clips, those video clips, as backup for what he contended, even while saying it's ultimately not a big part of their core legal issues. Says McPherson, we've already started the process of checking multiple fan accounts and other videos, as I'm sure others are doing right now, to see if their movements match the sound. However, once again, whether the rest of the band played live or not, and whether Mick had playing issues or not, the most important fact here is that he is a shareholder of the band's corporate and LLC entities. You don't lose your shares just because you played the wrong note after 41 years. Hands down, bar none, straight the fuck up.
Yep.
It does not matter. You play so what this really comes down to, the motivation here is greed. It's straight up greed. We want to keep playing shows, even though we called it quits. We want to cut this guy out. It's bananas.
You think they wanted? I don't know, man. I think he wanted to leave. I thought we agreed that he wanted to leave.
Sorry. He wanted to leave. Right. But what I'm saying is he wanted to leave, but they are not happy with him taking his share
They're just
while
saying
not
that.
playing live, because they think that he is devaluing the
Greedy.
crew. Yeah, of course it's greed. So they're using this as an excuse. This brings it back to the core of the multifaceted dispute, the disparity between Mars and the band's conflicting statements in October over his status with the group. The guitarist issued a statement saying that he was retiring from touring due to difficulty of managing pain from his disease on tour at age 71, but would still be a part of Mötley Crüe when it came to recordings, limited Las Vegas style residencies, or special one-off appearances, which you would think would be absolutely in the interest of Crüe, because think about the higher ticket price that they can charge when it's the original lineup of the band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Name an example. Has anyone done that actually? We
Yes.
always talk about those examples, but
Yes. Let's
Who does it?
open up the rock and roll law book again.
yeah.
Case in point, I'm opening it up. Beach Boy and also Bastard, no offense. This is JV Bastard. Beach Boy and Bastard, Mike Love is one of those guys.
I guess
Yeah.
David Lee Roth.
Why David Lee Roth?
He's been in and out and in again.
Yeah, but so they go Van Halen, Van Hagar.
Bon Scott's been in and out and in again.
Bon Scott?
Brian Johnson, I'm sorry.
Brian Johnson. Yeah.
In out in again.
What I mean to say is I'm talking about two different versions of the band. So Mike Love was going around. He's like, okay, I'm going to do my touring version of the Beach Boys.
Like Black Flag then.
And then when Brian Wilson joins us and Al Jardine joins us, then we're going to be the Beach Boys, like the OG Beach Boys, and they charge more money for a ticket. And that is, whether that's stupid or not.
That's two bands.
It's not two bands considered to be the same band. So whether it's stupid or not,
It's not.
I'm saying whether it's stupid or not, the crew could be charging more money if they did do limited Las Vegas style residencies or special one-off appearances with Mick Mars, and then having like John 5 on tour. It benefits everybody for Mick
It never
Mars to
happens
stay.
though.
Yeah, but
Everyone talks about it. Never happens.
Yeah, but it benefits the band for him to stay in the band in that kind of way. In any case, implicit in that his role as 1/4 shareholder in the band's businesses. The next day, the group issued a statement thanking him for his service, acknowledging his courage in admitting his health no longer allowed him to tour, and none too subtly stating that he had retired without qualification.
Thoughts and prayers.
Clearly, I'm sorry.
Thoughts and prayers.
Yeah. Clearly there was a dual attempt to control the narrative of whether Mars was still in Mötley Crüe, even as he had allowed that he would not be able to be out there as part of the face of it anymore. Here is his attorney's take. No, resigning from touring or even from the band entirely is not resigning from the band's corporations and LLCs. Case in point, opening up the rock and roll law books, and we have Ace Frehley who gets paid very handsomely to license out his Starman makeup, Spaceman makeup.
Spaceman.
So for all the crap that he talks about Kiss in the papers, he has been getting paid very well, from my understanding, to lease that makeup to those guys when they go out to do their brand. Everybody wins in that way, shape, or form.
Those two are on the payroll. They hate each other. They can't fuck.
Right.
I'm telling you, Mötley really does, man. They chase Kiss a lot, man.
I guess you're right. I guess you are right.
They chase Kiss a lot.
So case in point, that whether he's in Mötley Crüe or not, he is still a stakeholder in the holdings, and therefore, like, this idea of like you can't play live anymore, therefore you're out of the band, therefore you're no longer a shareholder, and we're going to drop you from 25% to 5%, and then we're going to cut you off after that 5%. It's insane. That's absolutely insane. Here's
percent of what? Percent of what? Is this gross touring? What is it?
25% of whatever their LLCs, because, and it's kind of sad. They're not even calling it a band. They're calling it a brand. It's not a band. It's a brand.
Scroll up a little so we can look at Mick.
There he is.
Dude, he's looked like a corpse, like for at least like 15 years now.
Living freaking corpse. Here is his attorney's take. Resigning from touring or even from the band entirely. He's not resigning from the bands. Or we said this already. McPherson says corporate law does not work that way. If Jeff Bezos stops working at Amazon someday, he still gets to own the company. So does Mick. Kovac counters that if you take touring out of the equation for Mötley Crüe, there's nothing left. What is left? Mötley, thank you. Mötley Crüe, there's nothing left. What is left? Sixx has made it clear that he doesn't believe the band will record any new albums in the future. As far as other conceivable benefits of remaining in the band apart from touring splits, there are no record royalties, he points out, since the group made a deal in 2021 to sell its master recordings, which they acquired from themselves in the 90s to BMG. Yeah, but for how many? Okay, pull this up, Joe. How much did they make from that sale to BMG in the 90s? No, not in the 90s, in 2021. But they've owned their masters. And for those not familiar, when you record songs, you can own the publishing, which is like the song as an entity, but then there is the recording of the iconic recording of your song. And that's the thing that's on the radio. That's the thing that gets put on CDs and DVDs and whatever, blah, 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 on physical release, on mechanical releases. When that's what's known as the masters. When you gain control of the master syncing rights, you are on the king of the pile. That is like in the best possible position. A band like Metallica, they regained control of their masters, and they actually bought shares of they bought pieces of a pressing plant. Because the demand
on a whole pressing plant,
right? The demand for Metallica vinyl is so great now, and because they own their own mastering, their own masters. And talk about Jason Newsted getting paid really, really well. Those dudes are not only pressing their records, but they like own the plant. They own the means of the manufacturing. So they are crushing it. So Joe, do you have an answer for us? What did they make off of that sale?
150.
You gotta be kidding me. These guys are crying after they could, if they had oh my God, if they had collected
2021.
If they had collected royalties for the next 20 years, they wouldn't have made 150 million collectively. Okay.
Yeah, no way. That's a great deal.
That they cashed out. A lot of bands are cashing out, you know.
The Misfits did it.
The Misfits didn't do it. Misfit. One Misfit did it. Michael Graves cashed out for $150,000. No, what is it?
137.
Oh, it was 137. $137,000. And a part of me is kind of like, that was really stupid, but maybe it wasn't so stupid. If you think about it, like how much royalties was he really getting from those records? And
it was a good deal. That's a good deal.
It was a good deal because at the end of the day,
let's say that do that.
Let's say that Michael Graves was getting $10,000 a year off of both of those records. He basically just got 10 years of royalties or whatever, 13 years of royalties like advanced to him.
Yep.
In one lump sum. Who knows where he would be in 13 years? Well, we know where he is now.
and the songs are going to arguably become less popular as they go.
They definitely became a hell of a lot less popular due to his own fault in 2020. So the
next 30 years, they're probably not going to do as well as they did the last 30 years, you know.
It was a good deal for Michael Graves. Graves,
it's a good deal for any artist that age, you know, like it really is.
You know who did not benefit from that deal, who probably suffered greatly from that deal, was Dr. Chud, who only played on those records, and probably took quite a hit from the fact that how Michael Graves is received now and how that stuff is received as a result. of all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Chud. So in a way, it's kind of
It's bad
revenge.
business.
Oh, it's kind of revenge too, because Chud, very famously or infamously, however you want to put it, like basically stole a recording, allegedly stole a recording out from their band, not the Misfits, their band that they had after the Misfits. And they literally, nobody could make money off of that record because of Chud. So, I guess it's what goes around comes around. And I don't know. I digress. In any case, so those guys made $150 million and they are crying about not having royalties.
Dude,
again.
Let's see. What do you think they made off the, what do you think they made to sell their story for the dirt? The book or the movie?
My God. Yeah. Look that up. Joe, look that up right now. Cause I forgot about that. These guys are so,
I don't know if we'll get how much they got.
Just see what you could pull up. Additionally, Kovac says there are no publishing royalties or income from performance or neighboring rights since all of the members have sold or are selling their publishing. The manager says the other three have already made deals for offloading their publishing. Variety reported in 2020 that Sixx sold his 70% share to Hypnosis, and that Mars is in the process of selling his 10%. Oh wow! So Sixx wrote a lot of those songs.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Huh. Yep. So how much of the music?
Probably Mick and Sixx and Nikki wrote most of it.
Wait. So no, Mars only had 10%. So it sounds like Nikki Sixx is really the main song. Can someone answer that question, please? Someone answer that question in the comments. I see people are. Can anybody answer this? Who is the lion's share songwriter in Mötley Crüe? I guess it's Sixx.
No, it's definitely Nikki Sixx.
Okay, it's definitely Nikki Sixx.
Yeah.
McPherson did not comment on the status of Mars's publishing. What is left? Kovac reiterates. What does he want to do? We're talking about geriatric guys who are already multimillionaires, who will never friggin' live long enough to spend the amount of wealth that they've accumulated, who are crying about not being able to earn even more money. Thank you, Thomas. Thomas also confirms with Joe. Merch would seem to be an issue that could be affected by a partial or total severance. The band agrees that Mars is entitled to a fair share of anything that bears his likeness, but not necessarily anything that doesn't. It probably goes without saying that the band won't sell any t-shirts that still have Mars's face on them, though, right? Actually, Kovac says they don't. They still do sell such an item. Again, the Misfits go back to rock and roll law in the aughts.
The Misfits do not get rock and roll. We don't follow the Misfits in rock and roll law.
Yeah, but but in
Wild
the
West.
aughts, hold on a second. In the aughts, Jerry only was printing Misfits merchandise that did not feature Danzig, and Danzig was printing stuff like the Halloween. He had like a Halloween t-shirt.
Yeah.
He had a Halloween t-shirt that had Googie and Doyle, but it didn't have Jerry on it.
It got that bad. The worst was the Static Age shirt that had Dez, Jerry Other, and Only.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
The Static Age tour shirt. They did like a Static Age.
I have never seen that tour shirt.
Yeah, man. There's like a Static Age. It's designed like the cover of Static Age. You got the red around it and everything.
Oh, so it's more like it's a Static Age like tribute shirt.
Yes.
Oh well, that's not that. I mean, that's
What'd
not the same. I don't know. You made it sound like they had taken the class. I don't know. It's from what it sounded like. It sounded more like it was. Well, what Danzig did, which was just so ridiculous, was that he literally, there's just a black void where Jerry was. It's literally the original album art. It sounds like they created a new version of the Static Age style. That there's nothing wrong with that. That's valid. But Glenn literally was like, "Oh, just black it out, black it out." Just got rid of Jerry.
I don't know. I think it's worse to replace it with somebody than to black it out.
Well, but they're not. I wouldn't call what Jerry did replacing. It's like we're doing. This is our band, and we want to do a Static Age version of the shirt, or we're doing a Static Age style shirt. That's not the same as photo. Did he Photoshop Dez or whoever into the Static Age album cover? That would be ridiculous.
Kinda.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't. Well, I have to see the shirt. I'd have to see the shirt to know. In any case, Kovac said that the band made a good faith offer to Mars to give him a percentage of the 2023 touring that is going on without him as sort of an exit package, because the other band members have empathy for Mick, even though the band's belief is that he's owed nothing more going forward that isn't directly related to his name and likeness. Mars in his suit called this proposal a severance package. Wait, Mars in his suit called this proposal a severance package that he was asked to sign that would have headed off the scheduled arbitration and left him with no claims to make on future band activity. He also called it an insult. All right, this is some shit-ish. This is some ish right here. Ready? He also called it an insult. Both sides agree that the offer from the band was to give him 5% of 2023 stadium tour that he is not participating in. His final gigs with the band were September 2022. When Mars balked at that offer, we balked at that, the offer was upped to 7.5%, with the group contending that this was a very lucrative alternative to getting zero. So okay, Joe, one last thing to pull up. What do you, how much do they make in 2022? Do it for 2022. Yeah. Just so we can get
the last tour. I was doing the reunion tour because they did nothing in 2022.
I'm talking about the crew.
Yeah. Doing how much did Mötley Crüe make in
merch? No, right. On tour. No, I was just saying on
tour, that was their last tour.
Oh, well, they last played in 2022.
We can get September. The gross of their final tour.
Fine, just probably, do that. Good. And then do the math on that, and we'll see what they are literally offering Mars here. With the group contending that this was a very lucrative offer to getting zero. The guitarist still did not believe that this was worth signing away what he sees as his ongoing membership in the group on a business, if not performing level. I don't think they'll ever. It sounds like the business side of things, the performing side of things is over forever. But that still doesn't mean that he can't. I mean, he still could get paid whenever they're doing stuff because he's an owner. So, I mean,
oh my God.
What? Tell me.
Mick Mars is the richest member of Mötley Crüe.
What?
Yeah.
How so?
I'm reading it right here. He's got the highest net worth in the band.
Okay, but
he probably lives in his means. Think about it.
He was offered a terrific. Does he have like a family? Does he have kids? Like, does he have like dependents?
No, I don't think so.
So he's just a single guy at 71.
Yeah.
He was offered a terrific opportunity, says Kovac. An offer was made to him at 5% and then up to 7.5% to avoid this. What Mick is asking for is an equal share, 25%. But there's a guy named John 5 in the band. Mick resigned from touring, and John 5's getting paid. So who's going to pay John 5? So dude, like straight up, like pay him a salary. He's a hired gun. They're making it sound like this guy who just entered the band out of nowhere is now a part of. He says none of this makes sense. Of course it makes sense. He can't see why Mars didn't take the deal. They've got a 2023 tour. They're about halfway through. So let's estimate 150 million in gross. And then you take off for production and commissions, and let's call it 100 or 110 million. What's 7.5% of that? He says it's an insult. What is 7.5% of? So it's like $7 million. It's like $7.5 million for doing nothing. 7.2. I mean, that's still pretty good. That's still pretty good.
Like I said, man, he's worth 70 million already.
Right. At 71 years old. There's no way he's going to spend 70 million at 71 years old, right? Like, no. I mean,
he's got 70. His net worth is 70 million. Tommy Lee's is 70 million. Vince Neil's is 50 million, and Nikki Sixx 45.
All right. Now, why is Nikki Sixx so low? Huh?
He's probably got his money tied up in a lot of shit. He's been married a couple times. He's, probably got a lot. He probably spent a lot of money.
Does Mick Mars have? Does he have a family or no? You know what? It looks like he doesn't have a family. I'm only asking because I'm thinking like maybe he's got to like provide. Maybe he's got like grandkids and all sorts of stuff.
he's got some like hot fucking 30-year-old goth girlfriends every couple years, but
I'm not seeing anything for his he does not have, but point being, he doesn't have dependents. What about Nikki Sixx? I know Nikki Sixx has been
oh yeah, he's got a whole family.
I know he has kids.
Whole
Let's see here.
shebang. The wife's kids, dog, he's got a couple pools, probably got a house,
Yeah.
stupid dogs.
Oh yeah,
whole
look,
thing.
there's a bunch of looks like a bunch of kids.
Gaggle of kids.
A gaggle of kids for sure. Wait, someone
Probably
says
got 6 of
Jason
them.
says, hold on. Jason says he has grown kids. Who are you saying has grown
Yeah.
kids? Are you saying Nikki Sixx? Or are you
Nikki,
saying
yeah, his daughter, I think his daughter's she's like 18, 19, 20, something. She might be a model or something, if I'm correct.
the rest of the band have grown ass kids? Does Vince Neil have kids? Wonder.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think he's got the oldest kids.
So
He was
Mick
the first one
Mars.
to have kids.
Interesting. So Mick Mars is the only guy without kids. Oh no, Mick has a son named Les Paul. Okay, so Mick does have kids,
Cool.
but they're not meant. It's not mentioned there.
He
All right.
doesn't have a family. was my
Right,
point.
but he doesn't-
Sure,
right,
sure he's got a fucking kid or two.
Right. But he's got overhead. All these guys
Yeah.
have overhead, and the overhead really, at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is lifestyle. And that's part of the problem with all musicians and all rich people. They get a lifestyle that they get really used to, and they don't want to cut back on, and therefore they have to do things in order to increase that lifestyle. And that's how you get people like maybe like when their careers start like waning in a traditional way, and they start doing conventions and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that, of course, but like it's just like you want to keep
Yeah.
your semblance of life going, and so you got to do certain things to do that, and that's just the way it is, you know.
That's that's why this whole thing is why
Yeah.
Mick Mars is the richest member of Mötley Crüe. Straight up.
because Mick doesn't have that kind of lifestyle that the others have.
I mean, Andy goes after his money. He don't get ripped off.
Right.
You know?
Right.
You don't take no shit.
We're almost done with this article. He reiterates when he says, all right, so he's basically saying 7 million. He says it's an insult, and you got me quoting the other guys got 0 when they were out of the band. So when Vince Neil and Tommy left during the group during that, when they left the band, they weren't getting paid. They were not getting shares. He reiterates the math. I think Mick is part of the 1%. Please put that on the record. Let's say that it was 7.5% of 110 million. Could you live on that even if you had tens of millions already? I mean, they present a good point, but it doesn't matter. We're not talking about, it's not about how much money you have or don't have. It's about like what you are owed or what you are not owed. And the fact of the matter is the dude did not leave the band. He retired from touring. There is a difference. Whether any future payments to Mars are an obligation or just a favor whether any future payments to Mars are an obligation or just a favor may come down to a arbitration judge's reading of a 2008 amendment to the group's original operating agreement. That amendment was drafted when there was a lack of clarity over whether Neil or Mars were entitled to any money in the years during the 1990s and the 2000s when they took turns quitting the band. I think they don't mean Mars. I think they mean Tommy Lee. Kovac points out that Mars was one of those arguing and signing off on the idea that neither resigning member was entitled to anything during their time away. And thus, that should be their practice going forward. So basically, to sum this all up, when Vince Neil and Tommy Lee left, were not given anything from the crew pot. Okay, the money pot.
I think there's a difference between quitting and resigning too.
Very true. They quitting versus resigning is a good point, and resigning because of health reasons, nonetheless.
And
Maybe,
time served. I mean,
yeah, and time served. Maybe there's a slight renegotiation. Maybe from 25 to 20, but like, like it should be, the fact that Mars served 41 years in the band.
Give him his money. Get him a
his
nice
money.
watch.
Give him his money. Yeah,
Watch.
absolutely. In any case, so it sounds like this amendment to the operating agreement will determine what happens with Mars, and that Mars's insistence on Neil and Lee not getting paid could in fact bite him in the ass all these years later. Variety obtained the 2008 amendment, and it's clear on some points. We're talking about this like it's the fucking Constitution. What the fuck is wrong? Like, this is, who gives a shit? Who cares about this? Like, why? Like, Variety is writing the 2008 amendment of Mötley Crüe runs its band. Variety obtained the 2008 amendment, and it's clear on some points, possibly more ambiguous on others. Despite the signees' intention to set things straight once and for all at the time, it reads in part, in the event that any shareholder no longer renders services in MC, then no amount of purported value shall be attributed to the trademarks at that time of resignation, but all such trademarks shall continue to be the exclusive property of the corporation. In the event that any shareholder resigns from performing and or rendering services in MC, he shall not be permitted to continue to use the trademarks for any purpose whatsoever, notwithstanding anything contained herein to the contrary. In no event shall any resigning shareholder be entitled to receive any monies attributed to live performances, i.e. tours. The way I interpret that, reading that, that's legalese, absolutely states that Mars would not be, by their operating agreement, would not be entitled to money. Whether he should or shouldn't be, it does seem that that's what it says. If that, in fact, is, how do you see that, Joe? Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, that I agree.
That would seem to make it clear that anyone who quits the band altogether shouldn't get any money from touring receipts.
He wasn't quitting; he was retiring.
But he was retiring, right?
That's a unique situation, especially after the band officially retired,
and citing his health situation too. But Mars,
although they totally, I mean, you know as well as I do, when a band breaks up, often they've already got their reunion tour planned.
Yes, we know that. Joe and I are fully well aware of that situation.
Yeah, the breakup of a band is a strategic move.
Yes, it is, more than you can possibly ever imagine.
Yes.
And
and that is the case here, obviously.
Yeah, I guess maybe they're like, listen, let's
how many years were they away? How many years were they away?
I don't know.
Pull it up. They did a whole world tour to end the band for 3 years.
Where was I in this thing? So there would seem to make it clear that anyone who quits the band altogether shouldn't get any money from touring receipts, but Mars's camp doesn't consider him a resigning shareholder, but someone who very vocally continues to believe he's a non-resigning shareholder. Variety asked Aaron Liskin, a top entertainment attorney, to look at the language in the amendment and the two sides' take on it and render an opinion on what the retired judge who will oversee the arbitration might think. Liskin thought on initial glance that the band had a case for arguing that by quitting touring, Mars may have cleared himself of having any duties to perform in the group. They haven't made an album since 2008, so what does it mean to participate beyond touring, he wondered. The language is a little flimsy. One of the things that would likely get tested is what was the intent. If the other members were not getting paid during their temporary resignations, and that was really the motivation for putting this together, if you're not touring, you're not getting paid, then will that carry weight with the judge? If the evidence backs that up, on the other hand, he thought it was curious that the document does not have any discussion on how an exiting shareholder's shares would be redistributed, something that might have been covered in the original 20th century operating agreement. Variety has not seen the original contract, and neither side offered comment on what it contains in that regard. McPherson says that what happened when the other two members were out of the band has no bearing on what is happening now with Mars. Vince was thrown out of the band and Tommy left for other endeavors, says the attorney. That was a long time ago. They did not leave after 41 years, and they did not simply retire from touring, particularly because of a debilitating disease, but from the group entirely. This scenario that you discuss would allow Sixx to get rid of everyone, and he would be the last man standing, owning everything. This is not how corporate law works, and this is not even how normal bands work, especially regarding a band founder. Very true. Very good point there. As it stands, look at these guys just wanting to be the New York Dolls. That's what kills me. Like, these guys ruled the world in the 80s, and it's like
Hanoi rocks.
Yeah, Hanoi rocks too. Of course, these guys
Smith.
Yep, all of them. They all ruled the world in the friggin' 80s. And meanwhile, back in 1971, friggin' New York Dolls, they were doing it first, and they did it friggin' way more awesomer, and they aren't even in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It kills me. That's what makes me think the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is such a sham that they could overlook something as so blatantly obvious. As it stands with Mars's suit, though, it's the seemingly most mundane matter, compelling Mötley Crüe to turn over documents. That is the sole one to be decided in the moment. The Crüe team believes that the suit has no foundation in any obstacles Mars has faced in getting the documents that he needs, and it really was put together as a delivery system for the guitar to get publicity for all his beefs. Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, that's what I was saying before.
Right,
about that last sentence you said.
Right about the about
it's the publicity system. Yeah,
but you know something.
Now we're talking about the tour. Everyone's making money.
You know what? Everybody's making money. You know what?
We're advertising for them right now.
If he has to retire after appraising the fact that they had this sort of operating agreement from 2008, and considering the precedent that members have left in the past and not gotten paid, I would say that Mars is absolutely entitled to his monies, but that perhaps his share needs to be reassessed in a way that reflects the fact that he's not touring if they're not recording. Meaning that he should have a pension within the shares. He should have he should have a stake, but the stake needs to reflect his current output. I don't know, but that's also kind of bullshit, man. I mean, the dude was a founding member. He did 41 years. He retired. He's still technically ready to record if they're going to record. I would say I would knock it down to 20%. 15%. Be like, look, that's your 15%. No matter what you do.
That what you just said is probably that last sentence, man. Like, he's probably doing all of the. I'll believe that Mars is drumming up all this press to make a big stink and get his way, and those guys are like, we did give him what we gave him, F him, and using this as press,
right.
That's why they're not giving it to him. That's why they're not going to give it to him.
Right. And now people all across the board in the rock and roll sphere are talking about Mötley Crüe like they're this really relevant thing. McPherson provided a letter he wrote to Mötley Crüe's legal team on February 8th, demanding materials by February 16th, blah, 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 blah. He got from the latter date, attaching the records, blah, blah, blah. We're still locating records and anticipate producing additional documents on a rolling basis. He says that the attachments were so few as to be meaningless, and he got nothing further from the Crüe reps in the 8 weeks since. Hence, they're filing the suit to get far more paperwork than they say has been forthcoming. Says Mötley Crüe's litigation attorney, Sasha Fried. This is so freaking. I provided Mick's lawyer the records that he requested to him, and he gave me a call, blah, 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 blah. He adds the lawsuit that Mick filed is a petition for writ of mandate to obtain certain records. Okay, I mean, whatever. Okay, I can't read this anymore. I'm like dying. It's like it's redundant now. Okay, blah 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 blah
Here,
blah.
there, within, and thereby.
Oh my
in this
god,
universe
this thing
and
goes
all other
on and on. I
universes.
can't read it, dude. I'm done. I can't read it. Loyalty. Okay, wait. Actually, let's skip down
Yeah,
to
it
here.
picks up at that. Yeah,
I
you
think
can
it
see
picks
where
up
it
there.
ends.
Takes a substantial for helping. Okay, here, hold on. This talks more about the relationship. That's what I wanted to get to. Sorry. This is all Mick. He's tired of being bullied. There's nobody driving the train here but Mick. In the end, so much of this comes down to it's personal, with issues primarily between Mars and Sixx that the arbitration judge may not even want to look at. Both members feel betrayed, or at the very least deeply hurt by each other, while Neil's or Lee's names hardly come up as a fraction as often as the tales of old wounds unfold. Sixx and Kovac think that they're getting a poor payback in return for helping save Mars' life. When he bottomed out in the early 2000s, in his Variety interview, Mars admitted that he was deeply addicted to opiates due to the pain from his syndrome that had increased over the decades, and was able to get off the drugs by taking a couple of years off starting in 2000. Kovac takes substantial responsibility for helping Mars get clean 2 decades ago, and says at that time, I said, okay, Nikki, something's wrong. If you guys haven't heard from him for 2.5 years, let's go to his house and find out if he's even alive. When we knocked down the door, because Mick couldn't walk, he could only crawl. He needed a hip operation.
Yeah. He's in rough shape.
He was in rough shape. Nikki had him sleep at his house and go to some doctors where I had different people from my company taking him. He weighed all of 89 pounds. There was a documentary called The Resurrection, and it shows the debate of whether to bring Mick back. When Mick wasn't capable, the band waited a long time while he healed. And even after healing, he was never the same, though he's been on the road ever since. I call that support. I hope you print that, because that's true. And ask Mick, how did you get those doctors? Did you stay at Nikki's house when people were debating about you being in the band or not? Did you end up in the band despite you disappearing for 2.5 years and having to go to rehab for 2.5 years after that? I think that's important. Did Nikki get a tattoo to show you that he would never do anything to harm you? That's the funniest part of it. It's like, hey, man, I got a tattoo. I love you, man.
It's relevant.
It's relevant. Okay. Did Nikki get a tattoo? It's like if I got a tattoo and then like I came to murder you. I was like, look, I got a tattoo.
When you read it in
Look
the
at
list of
tattoo.
things that you were just reading, it's relevant.
Yeah. Fine. Let me keep going. Did you try to harm him by throwing him out of the band because you thought he stole your publishing? Did you prevail? The answer, Kovac says, is no. Did he forgive you? Which he did, because we all know he was being taken advantage of. Everyone kept him in the band, but Mick never apologized, and Nikki is still loyal. The apparently bitter publishing dispute, which happened about 8 years ago, had Mars saying that he had contributed more substantially to the songwriting than the 10% share he was originally given, according to Kovac, who says Sixx had always come in with all the lyrics and melodies. The fight eventually went away, but there are clearly residual feelings on all fronts. Even now, Mars's lawyer says that the other side is gaslighting when it contends the guitarist didn't contribute as a writer, though Kovac says he even interviewed the band's former producers to get to the heart of the matter. I will say this, man. We actually, Joe, you and I on this channel have debated and discussed whether what constitutes, you were telling me about how like you could be making riffs and that leads to a band, like a song's identity and therefore the authorship of the song. But legally in court, it is lyrics and melody that constitute ownership of a song. And so while I got to tell you, I don't know anything about Nikki Sixx guitar playing, but I have a hard time believing that he wrote any of the guitar parts in any of that Mötley Crüe we were just listening to, and that's not Mick Mars. But yet, because he wrote the melodies and the lyrics, he is the 70% publishing owner, while Mick is only 10. And so that I think that is something to consider as well when looking at that kind of thing without bias. The
That guy
band's-
was 30 years old and permanently disabled when he joined the band. He's 71 years old. Give him the money.
Give him the money.
Give him the money.
The band's contention is that this professional loyalty continued into 2022 and even the present, despite the long history of wounds. Kovacs said that he and the group did repeated favors for Mars, like first negotiating the guitarist out of any liability he had with Live Nation to fulfill 2022 to 2023 touring because of his desire to pull out after the U.S. leg of the last year, spreading the exposure among the other three. And then Kovacs says he further negotiated Mars getting to keep his 7-figure advance for the tour and not pay any of it back. Mars' team response is that if Live Nation didn't make him return it, that is Live Nation's goodwill. With tickets for upcoming shows still on sale, Live Nation was at, you know what? I got to say this one thing. Fuck Live Nation. I don't care if Live Nation is upset. Who gives a crap? Live Nation, they're the biggest bunch of crooks ever. Who cares?
Ticketmaster.
I'm so sorry
leave them
you lost some of your money. Oh, please, that they should be bulldozed into the ground. Live Nation.
That's how I'm feeling about all this, man. That's how, I mean,
yeah.
Give him the money, man. You guys made squillions of dollars together. Squillions.
I don't know. I got to tell you, like, this article has keeps pushing like a point of view, and every time it pushes a point of view, I'm like leaning with that point of view as I'm reading the words. I'm like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah. Like I'm just being pushed in every direction. Like I don't know where to stand. Because I understand all these points of view. Ultimately, one thing is for certain: Mars is not the one Mars is clearly the only competent musician left in that band, and he's holding the band together.
All they're really saying, and I mean, it's relevant, but all they're saying is that they were good to Mick through the years.
And they were
decent people.
They totally were.
Sure.
They were
good to everyone else too. I'm sure
those were all good examples.
Those are all things that you would do.
Yeah, right. No, absolutely. The manager says he blames Mars' supposedly faulty memory as well as his reps. He is in pain. He does have a hard time remembering, just like he doesn't remember trying to kick Nikki Sixx out of his band. As proof that Mars has memory lapses, Kovacs pulls up an email that says the guitarist sent production manager Robert Long on October 6th, asking, I was just wondering when the second leg of the stadium thing starts. And where? Europe? Let me know. Although there could be other explanations, Kovacs says that's proof that Mars didn't recall that he had already played his final gig with Crüe. As you can see, he forgot he resigned. Holy crap. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's pretty, I mean, that's, what that sounds like. It doesn't sound like memory lapse. That sounds like early onset Alzheimer's or dementia. I mean, that's what that sounds like. I hope it's not, but that sounds kind of crazy.
Yeah.
All the more reason why he does need his 25%. Loyalty obviously is not the buzzword that would be foremost in fans' minds for any time to come, even though Kovacs says Sixx still feels it in his fashion towards Mars. Mars. Many fans find themselves in the awkward position of feeling like they have to choose a side. Is it with Sixx, whose lone tweet about the imbroglio? Oh, that's a great word. Imbroglio. What a great freaking word.
Give me the sentence.
All right, hold on. Imbroglio. Let's see if that's probably like kerfluffle. Let's look that up.
Ooh.
Imbroglio, an extremely confused, complicated, or embarrassing situation. I love that word.
It's like kerfluffle, right?
It's like kerfluffle a little bit. I love imbroglio. Yeah. That is like my new go-to word.
It reminds me of Pishagil for some reason.
What did you say? Pishagil?
It reminds me of Pishagil, yeah.
Oh wow.
Imbroglio sounds like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I also I mean,
it sounds Italian for what's between your legs.
I was about to say it also sounds like it also would be a great name for like a dog. Imbroglio. Imbroglio, come here, boy. Or if like you had a kid in like the 1800s, like that was
Virgil.
like, why don't we name him Imbroglio? All right, let's keep reading. We're almost, this is literally the end. Sad day for us when we don't deserve this, considering how many years we've been propping him up in this imbroglio. We still wish him the best. Or with Mars, who told Variety, I can't believe that they're pulling this crap in this imbroglio. I carried those bastards for years. Are your emotions carried more by the thought of Sixx, who took in Mars as a housemate and helped his recovery, or by Mars, picture of his bandmate who supposedly belittled him during his final months on tour? You could sympathize with the band in the imbroglio that says that they were loyal through mounting recent onstage mishaps and imbroglios, or with the guitarist who cites a veritable lifetime of antagonism and imbroglio. Those guys have been hammering on me since '87, trying to replace me in this imbroglio. The arbitration judge likely won't be much guided by sentiment. The fans, they just may want to cry at the devil in this imbroglio. The end.
Dude, did they really hear that many times?
Yes, they did. They kept using that word imbroglio over and over and over again. And then the thing that's happening now is you see guys like KK Downing and who else is like, there's all these people that are flocking to the different, like everybody's taking a side in this Mötley drama. And
what's he saying? What's KK Downing saying?
KK is saying,
I only saw what was it? Vinny Appice? I only saw.
I didn't see that.
He was the guy who said something first. That's where this all started. Carmine Appice or Vinny Appice.
Who like, said what?
He broke Mick's story.
Oh, really?
He broke the story about them running tracks and everything.
KK Downing offers sympathies to Mick Mars in ongoing Mötley Crüe saga. He says it's identical to his own troubles with Judas Priest. So he has also had similar issues. Now, KK Downing, he's like the founding member. He's like a founding member of Priest, right?
I'm not very versed in Priest, man.
Neither am I.
Believe so.
Carmine. Yeah. It was Carmine who said it.
If not, he's the staple member, yeah.
Carmine is like Vinny didn't really have much of a career. He compared to his brother. His brother did like tons of stuff. I feel like Vinny was like in Vanilla Fudge for 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
Like he didn't really do anything. But his
know
brother,
they're both drummers, and I
they're
was
both drummers. But his brother is like in like the tightest, one of the tightest versions of Black Sabbath, man. With friggin' Ronnie James Dio, that friggin' live at Hammersmith. Oh my God. Mob Rules era, friggin' Sabbath. So tight.
I'm in a place where we only acknowledge Ozzy Osbourne as the singer of Black Sabbath.
I will take Ronnie James Dio over Ozzy Osbourne any day of the week.
Blasphemer.
He sings Ozzy songs better than Ozzy.
Stop.
I'm so serious too. I'm so serious. I heard a live recording of Neon Nights. Then. Dude, I heard a live recording of Neon Nights.
What was your first Black Sabbath? What's your intro to Black Sabbath?
Ozzy.
Well,
Black Sabbath, the self-titled, and then what's the second one's called? Paranoid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to those two albums and then Master of Reality, which is great. Children of the Grave, which Danzig rewrote like 15 times.
Where'd you get that from? Like, did you like find your parents' Black Sabbath records, or where'd you?
No,
find that?
I was like, what's Black Sabbath all about? It was later in life. I was like, what's Black Sabbath all about? This is probably about like.
So who showed you Dio Sabbath?
I came to Dio Sabbath even later, and I was like,
that's Napster.
No, it was not.
That's like
Napster.
like you hearing. It's like you're hearing Saturday Night before you heard Skulls. You know, like,
No. It was. I had heard Heaven and Hell, and I heard Mob Rules, and then I heard this live recording of Sabbath from like 80 or 81, and I was like, holy crap, this live band is so much better than like the Ozzy live band. I just love it. I love the way Ronnie James Dio does the songs, man. He just friggin' rules, dude. And mind you, hey, not a metal guy. the Ronnie James Dio version of Sabbath is way just they're faster, more aggressive, better, really good. I like Ozzy Sabbath, but not. I like Dio Sabbath better.
How do you feel about Ozzy solo?
You know, I really have listened to so little. I've listened to like a little bit of Barking at the Moon. Obviously, I heard Crazy Train. Yeah, Crazy Train.
Bark at the Moon.
What is it? Bark at the Moon is that? Yeah. See, I really don't know. I really don't know that much.
Yeah. How much Dio have you listened to? Like solo Dio?
Holy Diver.
Yeah. Figured.
I'm not, dude. I'm not a metal guy. I'm not a metal guy.
That's music, bro. That's like pop in the 80s. In the 80s, that was like pop, man. Ozzy looked like your aunt, dude. Like that was. Those are great songs, dude. Ozzy solo is fantastic.
What would you recommend? Okay, what is the Ozzy? So give me an Ozzy solo record, like top to bottom, every song being a banger. Give me one tears. Ozzy. What is it?
No more tears.
No more tears.
Perfect. Yeah,
that's a whole album. Dude. That's a whole album. Okay.
Yep. No more tears.
Is that Randy Rhoads or is that after Randy Rhoads?
No, that's actually not Randy Rhoads. That's actually the second
Zakk Wylde.
Yeah, second Zakk Wylde record. They're all good, dude.
Every one of them. Don't they call one of his bands Zach Sabbath because it's like Zach?
They're awesome. Yeah, it's him and Blasco from Zombies band.
Right, and they play for Ozzy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what's known as like the Zach Sabbath band, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a big Zakk Wylde mark, but they do the songs well. Zach can sound like Ozzy really well if he wants to, you know. Like he does,
he's singing.
Hell of a ringer.
He's singing. So he's singing the songs.
Yeah.
So Zach Sabbath doesn't actually feature Ozzy at all.
Nope.
Oh,
nope.
Interesting.
I mean, Black Sabbath broke up. So it's cool. I mean, that's the only way you can still get to kind of see Sabbath by some guys. Ozzy's band has a Black Sabbath cover band, is what it really is.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You don't even want to hear all the Metallica that I like. It'll just make you really mad.
Probably not.
It'll make you mad. It'll make you mad.
What could it be?
I really like some of those songs off of Load and Reload.
I don't discriminate by Metallica, man. Metallica's good. Metallica's good all around.
I like King Nothing. I think is a really great song.
Nothing wrong with that song.
I like King Nothing. I love their they did some covers. I love Whiskey in the Jar cover is fucking great. That's
probably like your coming of age Metallica record, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That is my coming of age Metallica. What is the Bob Seger song they did also?
Turn the Page.
Yeah, Turn the Page. Great record. I mean, great cover and great video. Mm-hmm. And the Whiskey in the Jar video is like so good. It's so freaking good. And then King Nothing, as I said. What else was in that era of Metallica that I really, really liked? Of course I like the Black Album. You know, I listened after we toured together. I went out and actively listened to those early Metallica records. They're fine. Yeah. Like you could drop the needle on any one of those albums and just put something on it. I would be content to listen to it. If you asked me what the song was, I wouldn't know, but I would be like, yeah, this is good. This is interesting.
I find a lot of people who are into punk typically can get into the first two Metallica records. Like there's a
punky DNA there a little bit for sure. Yeah, I am firm, and it's so funny. It's like you are a metalhead that does like some punk, but I am through and through. I am a punk guy. Like it's just, that's my jam. That's always been my jam. So it's like,
I was always both, but I mean, like, I guess I've leaned toward metal for more time. I don't know. I don't know.
I feel like you're a metalhead that listens to punk.
Yeah. I would have.
You are firmly rooted in metal, Joe. You are. You really are. Like, I'm not saying that you're not into punk, because you obviously like punk. You like you like a lot of different eclectic punk stuff. Like, I know you like Op Ivy. I know you like Kepi Ghoulie. I know you like, obviously, like the Misfits and the Ramones and blah blah blah. Yeah, you like all that stuff, but your meat and potatoes is metal, and it's exactly the opposite for me, except that my metal what's it called, vocabulary is so much less compared to your punk vocabulary.
I came up on classic rock. I mean, like, the
everybody came up on classic rock. Yeah.
But where does that stuff lead you to from Black Sabbath and all that and Pink Floyd? Like, you're going to find Metallica, Pantera, and, it's just the natural progression.
I guess.
I mean, every Misfits fan was listening to Metallica in the 80s. That's how we all became Misfits fans. Like, it's
true. Well, that's not how, that wasn't my origin story, but
yes, it is.
It's really not.
But it is
really not.
Like some denomination of something, of Metallica because the Misfits because of Metallica.
No, I don't. Actually, you know how I found out about the Misfits?
You know what? I don't too. You're right.
From Return of the Living Dead. That's how I found out about the Misfits. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How do you find out?
Because the very first time I ever heard the name The Misfits was I was searching for information like on Geocities, like websites about Return of the Living Dead. GeoCities, whatever. GeoCities. I was searching for information on Return of the Living Dead, and someone was like, like what you used to do back in the day where you like just list things that you're interested in. Like, it's literally nothing more than a list. Things I like. And one of them was at the bottom was like the Misfits. I'm like, that sounds stupid. Like, the Misfits. What's the Misfits? And then I heard Last Caress and Ghouls Night Out and Day of the Dead. All three of those songs.
Napster, right? Or MP3.
Yes, it was. And I immediately was like, huh, one of these things is not like the other, but I don't understand how. Like, I was like, okay, this is just all the same band, but it was Last Caress. Hearing Last Caress just absolutely floored me at, like, I guess it was like 14 years old, 15 years old, something like that.
In some way, we all heard Misfits before we knew we heard the Misfits. Like a lot of people being Metallica. I mean, just a lot. You probably heard Last Caress before you heard any Misfits song.
It was my first Misfits song. Absolutely. Hands down.
No, I mean, a lot of people heard Metallica doing Last Caress before they heard the Misfits do it.
Right. That was not me. That was not me. I heard it afterwards. So it was like this weird, it was absolutely this weird sort of, it was a weird sort of thing. But mind you, I had, and even before that, listening to the soundtrack of SLC Punk also had a lot of bands. Like, that was definitely the first time I ever heard the Stooges was on that, 1969 stuff. So, it all sort of opens up. Listen, it is late and I have to wake up super early at the crack of 6:30 tomorrow. I really want to thank Mr. Joe for coming on and being just an absolute fantastic metal correspondent. We ultimately got down to the bottom of this Mötley business, I think, and where we've just our final verdict in the matter is that we side with Mick, and that Mick should get paid those fat stacks of cash, but maybe there is some malleability in what the share is, but
it's at all possible to give that guy what he wants. They should give that guy what he wants.
I agree, but at the same time, that I don't think that's going to happen. So I think there's going to be some malleability.
It's all press.
Or it's all press. And next year, you will see them all touring again together like this.
Yeah,
and that will be that. So, in any case, as we always say here on the channel, peace, hair grease. We'll see you next time. Same bat.